Today we're going to take a look at the Dreame H12 Pro Wet and Dry Vacuum Cleaner. How good is it? Let's find out. To start with, what a wet and dry vacuum cleaner is, as the name suggests, a vacuum cleaner that does both dry vacuuming but also wet cleaning of your floors, often with water and or a combination of water and cleaning detergent. This makes cleaning floors much quicker, more efficient and easier, as you no longer have to do two runs. The first run to dry vacuum your floors and then the second run to mop or clean them. With a wet and dry vacuum, of course, with one run you'd be doing both. The vacuum would be sucking out any dirt or debris, and a brush rotating at very high speeds is being drenched with clean water and is cleaning the floors in one pass. Most wet and dry vacuum cleaners have two tank systems, one for clean water and the other that collects the dirty water that you are using. Therefore, you'd be always cleaning with clean water and the two don't mix. After you're done cleaning, you put the vacuum back on its base, which charges the battery, and also there's usually a self-cleaning function that cleans the brush, but also does an internal flush to clean everything inside as well. And now let's take a look at the Dreame H12 Pro. To start with, I think it looks really nice. It's something I don't mind having on display. The black finish looks really nice and the design looks quite sleek. In terms of features, the Dreame H12 Pro, as with most modern wet and dry vacuums, have a self-propelled design. This means that the rotating brush is also propelling the machine as you move forward, thus by making it easier to move it around. The battery lasts for about 35 minutes, which is pretty decent as well. And it has voice prompts that tell you what mode you're in or what the machine is doing, which is also a nice touch. It also has edge-to-edge cleaning, which is something that's really nice to have. Now, some machines don't offer any edge cleaning, while others have only one-sided edge cleaning, but the Dreame H12 has an edge-to-edge, and as you can see, the brush extends to almost the extremity of the machine, and it works really well to get to your baseboards and all the edges. As I said, as with most wet and dry vacuums, it has two tanks, a 900 milliliter fresh water tank and a 700 milliliter dirty water tank, which is decent capacity. It has three cleaning modes, the first mode being an automatic mode, which automatically detects the amount of dirt or mess that is on the floor and automatically adjusts the suction power and the amount of water that's being dispensed accordingly. When you turn on the machine, there's a green ring on the display, which indicates that you are at the lowest mode. And then if it detects a medium amount of dirt or mess, it turns orange, it increases the suction power, and then it turns red, indicating maximum power when it detects a larger mess. The second mode is Ultra mode, and they describe this as for deep cleaning. However, there's minimal documentation as to what that mode does or is. Now, that mode uses the electrolysis of water for that deep cleaning. I have my reservations on that. In theory, the hydrolysis of water does produce hypochlorous acid, which some studies show that is a good disinfectant, and sodium hydroxide, which could be used as a cleaning agent. This is, of course, in theory. In practice, I have no way to tell if the electrolysis, which barely lasts 30 seconds, produces sufficient quantities of these or not, if a sufficient amount of current is passing through the water, or if this is effective in any way, shape, or form, or is simply a marketing gimmick. Unfortunately, I do not have a lab at my disposal, so I cannot test these claims, so I will take these with a grain of salt. Now, what I was disappointed in is the fact that the Ultra mode, which is again supposed to be for deep cleaning, is actually the automatic mode plus the electrolyzed water. What I had hoped for it to be is some sort of max mode, which kicks the machine at maximum power, maximum suction, and maximum water being dispensed. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and because this was poorly documented, neither on the website nor in the user manual, I had to learn this the hard way after I got the machine. And the third and the final mode is suction mode, and in this mode, there's no water that's being dispensed. It's only used to suck water from the floor to dry them. On the machine itself, you have the power button, but also another button to change the modes to one of the three modes, and a digital display that shows you both the amount of battery you have left, but also what mode you're currently in. There's a third button, which is for self-cleaning, and as I said, once you're done, you put the machine back on the base, it starts charging, and pressing this button initiates the self-cleaning of the machine, which rotates the brush at high speeds, and interesting in this model, it rotates the brush in both backward and forward direction. and it cleans the brush, but also the internal system of the machine. All you have to do afterwards is empty the dirty water tank. And here, unfortunately, I do miss that sort of filter that a lot of these machines have that collects the solid debris. And that comes really in handy if you want to dump the dirty water down the toilet. But of course, you don't want to also dump the solid debris that was collected. A lot of the machines have some sort of filter that catches the solid debris, so you can dump the water and then dump the solid debris in your garbage bin. Unfortunately, the Dreame H12 Pro does not have it, and I'm not sure why. A lot of even the cheaper models have this, so this was one of the points that I was actually also very disappointed in. Now, one special thing of this machine, after the self-cleaning is done, it initiates the drying mode, which dries the roller brushes, and this is done with hot air. It's advertised at 55 degrees Celsius. I clocked it at a bit less, about 40 to 45 degrees, but that's not a big deal. What I was very pleasantly surprised with is after the hour session of drying, the brush ends up 100% dry and actually quite toasty to the touch as well. Another small discrepancy here, the website and the user manual state that the drying mode is for an hour and a half, whereas on the machine itself, there's a sticker that says drying is done over 1 hour. In fact, it is done over 1 hour, but I found the full hour is more than enough time to get a fully dry, 100% dry brush. In terms of energy consumption, I clocked this at about 53 watts while charging, and then drying by itself takes 120 watts or 0.5 amps. So after the full hour of that drying cycle, it consumed about 0.12 kilowatt hours, which is not a lot. Another nice and interesting thing in this drying mode is that the brush is continuously rotating, so you get that even dry all throughout. A lot of the other machines that offer drying do not rotate the brush continuously, but rotate it a couple of degrees at different time intervals. And I think this is a better approach because you get even drying all throughout. This does, however, come at the expense of sound. It is a bit loud when you're drying the brush. You would need to close the door of wherever you have the machine put, but the good thing is that it is done in an hour versus a lot of the other machines that need 3, 4, 5, or even 6 hours to dry. Now let's talk about the performance, and I was pleasantly surprised with how it performed. I threw a bunch of different messes at the machine and it cleaned them thoroughly and quite well in all of the cases. To start with, I dumped a bit of ketchup on the floor and left it out for 12 hours to dry. It was quite dried out and stuck on the floor. The machine cleaned it quite well, but as you can see, it took a couple of passes to get all that ketchup out. And as you can also see, it did quite a good job at getting almost to the full edge of that, which was a nice thing. Afterwards, I drizzled a bit of honey on the floor and also left it for 12 hours, and the first pass, the honey was gone. The floor was a bit sticky though, but after a couple of passes, the mess was gone and the floor was no longer sticky. I put some cornflakes on the floor to see how well it picks up solid debris and slightly larger debris. Picked it up with absolutely no issue. Milk and cornflakes, same thing, with one pass, it was gone. And for the last test, I had some thick blue cheese that was going bad in the fridge, so I dumped it on the floor, and again with one go it got that all with no problem. The self-cleaning did a good job at cleaning the brush, although with the larger ketchup mess it did stay a bit stained with that red color, but it did a good job at cleaning the brush and flushing the internal ducts. Now the machine is a bit on the heavier side. It's a little bit less than 5 kilograms. However, the fact that it has a self-propelled design makes navigating it much easier. But in terms of the maneuverability, it's not one of the easiest to maneuver. I've tested machines that are much easier to maneuver, but also others that were much worse. So I would say it's not a deal breaker. It's a bit above average in terms of maneuverability. Also, it has pretty decent clearance to go under furniture for these types of machines, and these can never go very low because then you risk spilling water from the water tanks. But for wet and dry vacuums, it has pretty decent clearance. So here are my thoughts after using this for a while. Let me start with what I like about this machine. First of all, I said I really like the way it looks. I think it's quite sleek and good looking. There's also some nice attention to details. For example, when you put the machine on the charging base, the display switches to face you, so then you can read the battery percentage rather than it being inverted, and that's a nice touch. Also, when you're doing the self-cleaning, for example, it shows you the percentage completion of that process, which is also nice and not found in many of the other machines. I really like that drying is quite effective and the brush comes out completely dry after an hour. However, I don't like how loud it is, but I'm willing to forgive that because it's only for 1 hour. And all in all, I really like the machine. However, there are a few things that I did not like. For starters, that missing filter in the dirty water tank. That was one of the more important things that I missed and really wished it was there. There's of course the loud sound of the drying, which I already spoke about, but perhaps the most important thing that I really was disappointed in is the fact that there's no maximum mode, which you can manually trigger. And the reason I find this important is I don't want to rely on the machine and its sensors to kick off the maximum mode. And case in point, when I was cleaning the ketchup mess, the machine did not detect a huge spill, and that's because the ketchup had dried out. Same with the honey, which you can see in both cases, the ring remained on green, which meant the lowest mode. And as you can see, I had to go for multiple passes to get that stuck honey or ketchup, which I believe if I was able to kick the machine manually into maximum mode, it would have taken a fewer passes to get the mess clean. So this particular thing I was quite disappointed in. I really would have hoped Ultra mode would kick this into maximum, but for some reason it does not, and you're stuck with automatic mode in all cases. So all in all, would I recommend this? I think I do, but it also depends on what price you can get it at, because it's not cheap. It usually retails around $500+, but do check the price when you want to purchase. I will put a link in the description because there's often promotions that are going on and you could get this for much less. And if you do, I think it's a really good deal. It does what it is supposed to do and it does it well. Does it lack a few things? Yes, but until now I have yet to find the perfect machine that has everything. Speaking of, I will be reviewing the Diet Pro next, so if you are interested in seeing that review, make sure to subscribe to my channel to get notified when I release it. And as always, if you liked the video, please hit the like button. Until next time, cheers.